I just returned from the Promised Land. Yes, it was hot, yes, it was dusty, and yes, the people could sometimes be a little prickly, but with every step, every song, and every smile, I was reminded that I indeed was in the Promised Land. I was at Camp Tamarack. Now, full disclosure, I am not a Tamarack lifer. I went to Camp Tanuga as a kid, the same camp my dad went to in the 1950s. For 4 years, I was faculty at Camp George, a Union for Reform Judaism camp in Parry Sound, Ontario. For 4 summers, I took Bela and Asher, and we immersed ourselves in Reform Jewish camping. Then came COVID. When we couldn't cross the border to camp, my kids tried Tamarack. Long story short, I am now faculty at Tamarack. Where they go, I go. For hundreds of kids and teens and adults, it is truly a promised land, a place where you can be totally yourself. Want to wear an astronaut costume to flagpole in the morning, which someone did? Great! Want the entire village to be differently themed Barbies in honor of the movie, which Berman did? Fabulous. If you want to be a total animal and live like one for a month, go with God. On my last day of camp, I delivered Asher's sleeping bag to him in Levison, the village for the boys going into 6th grade. I walked into his cabin and could only laugh at the total disaster mess that these boys had been able to create in 5 days. I can't even express to you what it looked like, but no words would have done justice to what I saw. Asher had already warned me that probably nothing he took was coming home. After seeing that, I pray to God he's right. Camp, for so many people of all ages, is the place where you can be you, whatever that means. If you are quiet, loud, funny, sarcastic, cool, or weird, it doesn't matter. At camp, everyone is everything, and sometimes at the same time, and sometimes at different times. You get to shed your usual skin and let your own flag fly. And if you ask any camper or staff, they will tell you that the ability to be truly who they are and feel accepted is nothing short of miraculous. That along with the fun and friendships and foolishness, that is why camp is the promised land. And I can't wait to go back next year. But this year, sadly, was not without a great wait. The morning, just hours before the second session began, we got devastating news of Simon Merkis's death on Alaska 2. At that point, the question became, do we yell and scream and play music to welcome the new campers, or do we take a more somber approach? The decision was made to do the full-blown crazy welcome for the younger campers who did not know what had taken place, and make sure to make space for the older campers and staff who are absolutely shattered. And the whole week proceeded that way, the promised land for all, but not without its heartbreak. The challenge that Tamarack faced was how to honor 2 opposing feelings at once, grief and joy. Through the example of their leadership, an amazing effort by Jewish Family Service and Federation here at home, and of course, community support, they made it happen. Grief and joy, feeling lost and feeling seen, the beginning of one thing and the sudden tragic end of another. It was all held, honored, and given its due, all at one time. Yesterday was Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, the day the Jewish people commemorate the destruction of the 2 temples in Jerusalem. It is also the day designated to remember really any calamity that has befallen us since, like the expulsion from Spain or the fall of the Warsaw Ghetto. It is the only other 25-hour fast in our tradition besides Yom Kippur. Typically, Reform Jews do not observe Tisha B'Av because we are not looking to rebuild the temple and return to the Davidic monarchy. We believe we have a purpose in the diaspora, namely Tikkun Olam, repairing the world for ourselves and for others. This year, however, the 6th of Av became a day of mourning for many Jews, especially Israeli Jews. It was the day the government of Israel passed a new law that limits the Supreme Court's ability to check the executive branch, which is becoming increasingly hostile to secular Jews, the LGBTQ community, Arabs, and women. The front page of Israel's 3 largest papers were all black the day after the law's passage. One social media post called it a busha, a shame, an embarrassment, a violation against the modern miracle that is the state of Israel. Israelis have been in the streets for months during Israel's 75th anniversary, protesting the government's increasing attempt to make Israel into an autocracy. The passage of this law has opened that door to making that a real possibility. The National Council of Jewish Women, Sheila Katz, said this of the judicial overhaul: "It is painfully befitting that this major step of judicial overhaul happened just days before Tisha B'Av, Judaism's day of communal mourning. We now grieve the loss of the sacred structures of democracy and fight to fulfill the words of Lamentations, the scroll read on Tisha B'Av. We must return and renew our days." So what do we do with our joy for the 75th year of our beloved homeland and this new law that is fracturing not just the people within Israel, but the Jewish community as a whole? How do we celebrate the miracle of 75 years while we mourn the assault on the very foundation of the state, that all Jews are welcome and practice, orientation, and gender are not qualifiers for belonging? Somehow, whether we realize it or not, we find that balance every day. Why? Because that is life. Every single day. We just don't feel it that acutely sometimes. These past few weeks, we have felt the push and pull in our bones and our broken hearts. But even with the pain and the shattering, Tamarack is still the promised land, and Israel is still our home. At Tamarack, Circus Day went on for the youngest kids, just as it should have. But without a doubt, all of the love and positive energy that day created was sent back home to Simon's family, whether consciously or unconsciously, to lift them up and show support. In Israel, the rallies and strikes and marches will continue, as they should, to send a message to the government that Israel is a safe and welcome place for all Jews and for all people who choose to call that sacred land home, no matter how they live their Judaism, no matter who they love, and no matter where in the world they are from. We need to consciously send our good energy and our support to the people in the streets fighting for Israel's democracy. They need us to lift them up. They need to know that their concerns and fears and grief are seen, and even in the joy of Israel's 75th, we have to keep up the fight against those who would change the very nature of our homeland. Israel, just like camp, is supposed to be the place where you can be you, no matter what that means. That is one of the factors that makes these places so beloved to so many people, and why both are promised lands for people of all ages. How many places on this planet can you feel truly accepted, truly celebrated for who you are? I don't think there are that many. And so our prayer tonight, B'shana haba'a b'machaneh v'Yerushalayim, next year at camp, and please God, Jerusalem. Shabbat Shalom.